to watch it later. I'm also going to enable the transcription. I hope you can see that for those people who might need it. So let's get started, and as people come in, we can let them in today. So this is the Think and Drink welcome reception for the 14th International Conference on Climate Change Impacts and Responses. As I said before, my name's Tamsin Gilbert. I'm Research Network Producer with Common Ground Research Networks. I'd like to welcome you all to today and to the conference. This is sort of an informal get to know you session. We're going to see each other in the plenaries and online over the next couple of days. So what we like to do is welcome everyone, as suggested by the title, go around and sort of introduce ourselves and our work and who we are. I can see a couple of other Common Ground people here today. If you just want to give a wave as I introduce you. This, I'm not sure what box she's in, is Elizabeth Costa. She's the conference producer for this conference. Sort of down and to the right, for me, maybe different for you, is Kayla Ryan. She is our support assistant. And then directly below me, for me, but maybe not for you as well, as Andy Garcia. He's our conference and communications assistant. I am going to introduce now our Research Network Chair, Victoria, to say a little welcome.
Hello, everybody. Great to see you all here. And I know there are many more of you that we're going to be engaging across this conference. You may have seen the welcome video where myself and Stuart Capstick, who's the co-academic lead, where we set out the sort of frame for this conference. Obviously, this particular theme is amongst many of the other crises that are happening, particularly pressing and pertinent. And given the fact that the 6th assessment report, Working Group 3 report came out just yesterday, I think, you know, my observations and hearing people's commentary is that it's really of a magnitude difference. The nature of the call that's happening from politicians and the need and urgency is now getting really quite intense. I think that they're talking about now 3 years if we have the chance to keep within 1.5 degrees. So there's so much work to be done, both in terms of keeping the thinking fresh, but I would say, even more importantly now, taking everything that we already know and doing what we can to turn that into action, getting the messages to the right people, and using our capacity as academics in the broad sense of that to really help drive change. So I'm very much looking forward to the times that you're going to have over this session, engaging across the world with peers everywhere, something that the online environment enables us to do so well. So I hope that each of you get something really helpful out of this session, and know that you're in a community of practice globally, really trying to help move forward the thinking and, most importantly, action in this area. Thanks.
Thanks, Victoria. So what I'd like to do today is I'm going to call on each one of you to sort of unmute and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your work, what brings you to the conference. And during that time, what we'll do is we'll find your presentation page, put a link to that in the chat. It's a really useful way to share, get people directly to your digital media and to your work throughout the conference, and also see some of the familiar faces or hear some of the familiar voices that we'll hear over the next couple of days. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just call your name, and maybe you can unmute yourself. And please forgive me in advance if I happen to pronounce your name incorrectly. I have an unusual name myself, so yeah. Anyway, Fatima, did you want to go ahead and get started?
Sure. Okay. Hi, I'm Fatima Jahan Shorda. I'm from Bangladesh. Currently, I'm working as judge in the Land Service Tribunal of Bangladesh, and this is the biggest court of this country. I have 41,000 cases. So, It's overburdened. Okay. And I recently completed my Master of Research from Macquarie University on climate change law. And here I am. And in this conference, I'm going to present a presentation on towards equitable green justice, the cases of Bangladesh, Kenya, and Bhutan. In fact, this is the part of my thesis paper that I have submitted for my MS degree. So yeah, thank you all.
Excellent. Thank you, Fatima. I've just put the link to your presentation there in the chat for anyone who wants to follow along. The next person we have is Elke. Elke, are you able to unmute yourself?
Yes, I am. Hello. So I'm coming to you from my kitchen at the moment in Liverpool in the UK. I'm also making dinner, so if I'm suddenly running away, that's why. I'm a television scholar, and basically one of the things that I'm really interested in is what role television can play in communicating issues around climate change, and in particular how this can be also connected to community activism. So I'm working on a research project with the University of Liverpool as well, where we're looking into how a community comes together and basically makes decisions about what they want to see taken forward. UK is not the most advanced, I would say, in terms of supporting climate change action. And so a lot of local communities are now starting to do that themselves. And we're basically observing that through climate assemblies, and then we're filming that as well. And we're basically seeing how this is impacting on how other people learn about climate change, climate action, etc. So we're in the early stages of this project, but I'm really excited to hear from the experiences of others who've probably done more research in that area than me. Really looking forward to it.
Thank you, Elke. I hope you're having at least a glass of wine while you're attending a conference and cooking dinner at the same time. Oh, a coffee or a tea, something like that. The next I have is Blake. Blake, would you like to unmute yourself?
Sure. Hi, my name's Blake Height. I'm having a cup of coffee. I am in Washington, D.C. right now. I work in the U.S. House of Representatives and Congress, and I am a current evening law student. And I found myself here at the Common Grounds because I had submitted a paper presentation on a paper called Killing Mother Nature that I had submitted for my bioethics course, focused on the bioethical rationale for a fifth international crime of ecocide. So I'm very excited to meet all of you, and yeah, to.
Excellent. Thank you, Blake. I've put Blake's presentation link, Killing Mother Nature, there in the chat. Tristan, I think you're up next. Forgive me if I pronounced that incorrectly.
Good morning. Actually, I'm from the Philippines. I'm Tristan. Actually, it's 1 a.m. here.
Wow, thank you for coming along.
So I'm going to present. I have a paper presentation, and the title of that is "Effect of Systems Thinking in Teaching in an Integration." So basically, systems thinking is how you can look at things, at the variables that can affect climate change. So here in the Philippines, it's a problem because in our basic education, it's not the focus. It's not. We are not focusing on how to deal and how to adapt and mitigate on climate change, because in our basic education curriculum, it only contains two topics that focuses on basic topic. So for me, it should be prioritized because everyone is affected by this problem, and that's the reason why I opted to submit the research presentation in this conference.
Thank you. I hope you have some coffee. I was at the same room. Stay awake. I hope you at least had some sleep and then woke up for the session. Thanks. I've put the link for your session in the chat there. Lauren, did you want to unmute yourself there and introduce you?
Sure. So hi, I'm Lauren. I'm in Ontario, Canada. I'm involved in this session. I have a presentation up covering sort of the first 2 chapters of my PhD. I'm doing my PhD at the University of Waterloo. So I'm looking at water communication and threatening messaging. So sort of how do humans respond psychologically to threatening messages? So it's pretty interesting. And then I'm also interested in the next part of my PhD, which is sort of how that influences decision-making around water crises. So hopefully I explained that in my presentation, and super open to questions, of course, if anything's unclear, and looking forward to watching and reading and everything else with this conference.
Sorry, I'll just unmute myself there. And Lauren, you're one of our emerging scholars, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Excellent.
Fun,
well,
so
welcome.
Great, thank you.
Reba, did you? Oh, you've come in a little late, Reba. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tell you what we're doing is we're just going around and introducing ourselves and our work. If we've gone through a number of people now, but what you can do is look back through the chat, because I've been putting the links for their presentations in the chat there, but I don't know if you wanted to just unmute yourself and perhaps say a few words about who you are and your work and what you're presenting on.
Yeah, so everyone, hello, my name is Reba Carruth. I'm in the Capital Region, Chesapeake Region, Maryland, Washington, DC, Northern Virginia area. I am working as a policy fellow with the Chesapeake Climate Action Network. We're looking for the restoration of the Chesapeake Bay watershed, which is the source of the clean water for humans, but also animal livestock. And we're working on renewable energy transition. So that means that in my case, I'm looking at the phase out of coal and transition of coal communities, as well as the impact of climate on the Chesapeake Bay ecosystem. So there's a lot going on here. I won't bore you with that. There's a lot going on with the US, but also transatlantically. And so on in my paper, I'm looking at this challenging issue of decarbonization of strategic agriculture and automotive industries. And those 2 industries are chosen because they also were the foundation for the first major industrial revolution. And we have to see the climate transition really in the context of a larger socio and economic as well as ecological transition. So anyway, look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow, or hearing everyone tomorrow, and hopefully we can get together at another time.
Yes, great. And so what we have, and yes, thank you, and nice to meet everyone, and welcome to the conference. We do have a number of different sessions going on over the next couple of days. We have 2 plenary sessions tomorrow morning, one with Thomas Clark, and the next one with Christine, I'm going to mispronounce Christine's surname, Bergeron. Following that, we have what looks like a great lineup of parallel sessions that includes your presentation, some of the presentations that we've seen, and you can comment in the discussion board there. It all relating to, in some ways to the special focus of responding to climate change, governing the climate emergency. I don't know if we wanted to open it up to any questions related to the special focus, or any comments. If anyone wanted to say anything, go ahead,
Maybe
Victoria.
Just say a couple of words about it to kick us off, if that's helpful.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't know how many of you would say are formally involved in governance of any sort. Put your hand up maybe if you think that governance is something you do. Okay, yeah, I can see you there, Blake, and none others. And actually, governance is something that shapes everything that we do. So one thing I would love for people to come out of this conference is a sense of the fact that governance matters to all of us, because governance is is what shapes the direction of any organizational entity. It's about overseeing that direction, as in what are you doing and in what way are you doing it? That's the direction. That's being done in the way that is intended, so that the goals are being achieved in the way intended. And then being accountable, so making sure that there's accountability to do all of that, and that also the organization is accountable to external parties for doing that. So everything that we do within an organization is going to be influenced by that governance in one way or another. And that goes everything from national government, which is our organizations who do governance of a nation, as well as governance of the organization and the administration of that, all the way down to, you know, a few people getting together and trying to organize themselves to do, I don't know, an event, anything. You know, ultimately, you need that governance frame so that people can work effectively together to achieve the things they want to achieve in the way that needs to be achieved. So we've got some, you know, really fantastic speakers coming to talk to you about this. I mean, you might not realize, but for example, Thomas Clark wrote the very first handbook on corporate governance, you know, that was ever produced. He's in recent years really started to focus in on sustainability and climate change. So I think getting his perspective, and I would really come armed with some questions to really take his kind of very broad understanding of what's going on and really relate it to the situations you're in. Because even if it's just that, you know, you're not working within the organizational sphere, you are working in organizations, firstly, so you are affected by governance, and the extent to which you know what good looks like, what you would like it to look like, and how you can change it really matters. And also, as citizens, as stakeholders in society, the way that organizations around us are governed matters massively to how and if we're going to deal with the issues that we deal with. So I would say we need to become governance literate, and hopefully this will help you, depending on where you are on that, to do that. And I also think that we don't have time to be micromanaging all different little aspects of what's going on. We need to unleash innovation, and to do that, we need a good frame of governance. The right frame frees everyone to do things well, which is why also I think purposes and purpose-driven organizations are so important. So that's just a broad frame so that you can kind of see where we're coming from on this and why we think it's so important. And so I did mention just briefly, I'll just say, I mentioned Thomas, but also we have Christine, and she's CEO of Van City, which is a very innovative financing organization in Canada. And she should be able to give some really good on the ground insights about that. And then also the day after, we have Stephanie Bertels, who is an academic who's working very closely with communities to try to create change, and it's going to bring perspectives around Indigenous governance and alternative ways of thinking about governance to that which we normally think about. So there's an overview. It would be great, like Tamsin said, I'll hand back to you, Tamsin. It'd be great to get people's questions and share perspectives.
Did anyone want to jump in and say anything related to the special focus and what Victoria said today, related to their own work even? Go ahead, Elke.
Thank you so much, Victoria, for explaining it from that point of view, because now I feel really involved in governance, actually, because the work that we're doing is, working with a community group, the Weavertree in our case, who are really, really interested in basically tackling climate change on the local level. And obviously, how is this done? It's done through community, but obviously there is check and balances involved there as well. But more importantly, in many ways, this particular community group hopes to also present a case for more action at local level to the governance of our city, Liverpool. So, you can see in a way how this really operates, and and that's one of the thought processes for me at the moment, how actually local communities, groups in particular, can operate in that way, because particularly at the moment in the UK, but I think we see that elsewhere obviously as well, there's often a sense of we don't really know what to do. There's a sense of being, you know, there's a government over there, and they say things like net zero by that year, etc. But it doesn't quite seem to filter through into actions that we can feel in our daily life. And so it's community groups that often step into that breach. So for me, it's really fascinating to see precisely this relationship between politics, community groups and activism, and then obviously the media in between, because the media obviously are also the communication tool between those two groups. And for me, what is really, really interesting is to see how little the media seems to be operating in a functioning way at the moment, at least at local level.
Thank you, Elke. Really interesting and useful thoughts. And I would say definitely the language of governance is something that should operate across any organization, and it should be a way in which you can think about how the different organizations relate to each other. And I would say, if you're finding blockages within the organizations you work with, or, you know, like you say, where they say something and then it doesn't quite translate, normally the issue will start with, it'll be a governance issue that's either blocking progress or not enabling it in the way that it needs to, because ultimately management are constrained and enabled by that governing body, and that governing body and that governance system, but the governing body will be those that ultimately have the accountability for anything that organization does. So I just wanted to briefly put into the chat. It's a summary. Unfortunately, I'm trying to get it to be free. It's not free at the moment, but it doesn't cost that much. But it's an ISO, the first ever global ISO, global perspective on good governance of organization, regardless of what organization you are and regardless of where you are in the world. 77 countries came together to produce this, 25 liaisons, and I chaired that process for 5 years. So there's an overview that will give you, you know, that enough to be able to kind of get started and thinking about, you know, how can you think about governance if that's something you find useful. I've also noticed, Tamsin, we've got a couple of new people joined in. I didn't know if they wanted to introduce them.
Yes, I didn't want to interrupt. Nastenka, is that unsure? Sorry if that's not the correct way to pronounce your name. Would you mind just, I don't know if you wanted to unmute yourself and say a little bit about who you are and your work, and if you're presenting at the conference, I can put the link in the chat.
Hello, good morning. Yeah, my name is Nastenka Calle. I am with the Pacific Institute for Climate Solutions. I am joining from Vancouver, in British Columbia, Canada. And PICS is a collaboration of 4 universities, led by the University of Victoria, and work really closely with Simon Fraser University, the University of British Columbia, and the University of Northern British Columbia. And we really, our collaborative research model is to work very closely with researchers with organizations that we call it the solution seekers, to really support research that are going to be at the end used and implemented by the organization. So that's why we really like to involve the organizations from the beginning, and sometimes they are the ones that comes to us asking for support on research that they really need for the implementation of their climate action initiative, for example, and related to advanced mitigation adaptation solutions. So I am not presenting at the conference. I am just really keen in learning more, and I just finished a meeting, so that's why I'm just joining late and saw the link to this introduction that is happening. So I just wanted to join in and see who else is there, and looking forward to these 2 days and learn more about governance.
Fantastic.
I think it's very important for the work that we are right now doing.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us. Grazia, did you want to introduce yourself? I'm not sure if you're able to.
Well, Grazia is coming online. Grazia, like you say, I don't know if you're there, Grazia, but while you're coming online, oh, you are. Okay. I was just going to say very briefly to Nastenka that it's fantastic to hear the way that you're approaching research. I think this is a very, very critical transition that needs to be made. And I've written some publications specifically on that. And we have a special issue on repurposing universities for sustainable human progress that's just been launched. There's about 20 papers in there. They're all open access. I'll put that into the chat, because what you're talking about there is that sort of new way of working that we're a long way from. So, and others might be interested. So, but I'll pass over to you, Grazia. Nice.
Good morning, I'm Grazia Richello, PhD student at the University of Naples, Partenope. My interests are about econometrics, in particular the climate change and the impact of climate change on work market. In particular, I study with the INPS data set, and I work with big data to understand the impact that the meteorological events, in particular the extreme meteorological events, have on our work market. My presentation in this conference talk about a bibliometric literature review, a bibliometric analysis with VosViewer software, and I analyzed the theme most treated and least treated into literature. So I understand that the theme of the impact of climate change on work market is very poor analyzed, because many papers talk about, for example, the adaptation or migration, but really not many articles deal with the effect on working career, in particular on career of dependent workers, because many papers deal with the workers, the farmer, and the workers that are self-employed. So this is my research teams, and I'm really happy to be here, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Grazia. And I've put the link for your presentation page in the chat there so that everyone can read and view your digital media.
Okay.
Did anyone else want to say anything about the special focus, or make a comment or ask a question? Go ahead, Blake. You can just, I never know if I see the hands correctly, but yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I was hoping to ask Victoria, or maybe the broader group, if we're beginning to see the conversation shift to talk about managed retreats from coastlines. I know that in the United States, there's kind of a growing realization in certain areas that staying in those places is no longer sustainable from a budgetary perspective, with like federal insurance programs and things like that. So I'm wondering what portion of this conversation will be about accepting that we've already passed some of these points, and that we have to begin to think about a managed retreat situation.
I think that'd be good to open out to the group to see if anyone has any perspective. So I'm hearing, Blake, what you're saying is your specific interest is managed retreat from coastlines because of rising sea. But really the overall thing is this kind of, are we starting to take adaptation seriously enough now that's starting to be translated into logical on the ground action, because that's when you know it's being taken seriously. Yes,
and I'm worried about it from a stability of governance perspective, that reducing carbon emissions and things like that is kind of predicated on a stable governance, and unmanaged retreats threaten that or jeopardize that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the big elephants in the room, is that extent to which we are resting on the luxury of a certain amount of stability that comes from our denialism. And the longer we leave it, the more extreme the changes are going to have to be. And I often talk in my work about the need to move very swiftly to purpose-driven capitalism, because if we don't do that, if we don't have organizations committing themselves to a purpose that is a strategic contribution to our long-term well-being collectively, i.e. sustainability, and being accountable to it, and society trusting that, then we're going to start to move towards, I can only see a kind of more command and control system as chaos ensues if people is not happening properly. And that then is predicated on the right kind of governance that can rise to that in the right way. And we start to put our hands from a sort of a market that's uncontrollable and not helpful into the hands of potentially a government that's not fit for purpose. So I think this is a very important moment in time in that. And I'd love to know, to Blake's question, does anyone feel like there is some serious attention being paid to the adaptation shifts? Is governance within organizations and societies, are you starting to see proper leadership, you might say, on this?
Go ahead, Tristan.
Elke's
doing it.
In our case here in the Philippines, actually, especially now that we're going to have an election this May, only few candidates who are running for president shows their platforms in terms of dealing with climate change. But for now, we are following the Paris Agreement, but the implementation is not that it's not that well, because even though there is the need to follow the Paris Agreement, the government are still doing things, implementing things that are not sustainable to our environment. And like, for example, there's a case last year where they put dolomite sand in a coastal area. So this dolomite sand is for I just want to quote the local government there. This is for beautification of the area because it's too polluted, and then they tried to turn it into a beach. This is a coastal area. Then they tried to turn it into a beach, but in order to make it to attract tourists. But this affects many scientists here in the Philippines mentioned that this will affect the marine organisms who are in that coastal ecosystem. So in our case, it's not really they are not really implementing they are not really doing things to adapt and to mitigate climate change.
Reba, did you want to unmute yourself to say something as well? I can see your hand up there.
Oh, okay. So just very quickly, I think what we're seeing here in the United States is really, quite frankly, a type of panic setting in at the level of government and industry, as well as the population, because the reality of the climate crisis is calling into question the viability of really traditional systems in America. For example, we have this National Oceanic Atmospheric Agency that is now giving very clear warnings on the oceans. It's coming from this IPCC report on the increasing amounts of water that are encroaching on the coastlines, the Atlantic coast, the Pacific coast, and the impacts of this water, and particularly the acidification of this water, on the core systems of society and economy, like agriculture, even the foundation of buildings now are at risk. because of the compromise of the land and the encroachment of the water. The other issue, as everyone probably knows, the elephant in the room, is this current conflict with the Ukraine and Russia. It has led to a call for the emergency article to be invoked so that there could be an explosion of fracking and extraction and really just geometrical levels of fossil fuel use. And that is now causing people to have concern because for example, our water is at risk from this fracking and these pipelines and all these different dimensions. So it is a crisis. It is not insurmountable, but it clearly is a crisis that in terms of the United States of America has really resonated across all levels. And this is an opportunity, I think, in America to really zero in on what President Washington and Alexander Hamilton are trying to put forth as an American system, which is based on sustainable agriculture and industry and respect for the laws and limits of natural resources. So I think this is a good time as well for us in terms of governance. So that's what we're seeing here.
Does anyone else want to contribute something? Fatima, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just need to say that in Bangladesh, I worked for the Law Commission for last 7 years as a research officer there. So what I've seen, since my interest in climate change law and I'm working as a judge, so I just wanted to do something that what we can do through our justice system. So when I worked for my law commission and I did my MRIS, then I found that Bangladesh has also taken included in its sustainable development goal, that is it has introduced 44 climate change adaptation strategy and plans, like medium, immediate, and short term. And especially it has stressed on the equitable justice system that includes the women. Because in Bangladesh, we know it's the 9th most vulnerable country and our women are the biggest part of it. But yet, they are not only the victim, because in our country, when I worked as the family court and when I worked as the civil court, then I've seen, especially currently where I am now working, it is a water land, and there is the Haur, that is seasonal water that is flash floods. And if you see, especially in this season, there are flash floods, there is sudden floods, there is so many land erosion. So women are taking the initiative to how to tackle this type of climate change consequences. So our government, they are just integrated some plans into their sustainable development plan, that how women can be involved in this policy making. And for this, our law commission and other commission, human rights commission, and our Ministry of Environment, our Ministry of Planning, they're working on this. No, we haven't yet reached the goal, but we are very hopeful, because and as my sector is the law and justice, so what I was looking into this, that policy and other thing that can be done by the other, but what we are doing from our field. So what we are doing, because in Bangladesh there are only 19 environmental law, but due to some, everywhere there are some politicians that they don't want anything they don't want green laws which will be effective and which we can execute in the court. So there are some drawbacks and barriers, so that layman, a person who is affected by the climate change, they can directly go to the court. There are some sanctions. You need to get the approval from the specific department, and getting this permission is really very tough thing. Other than this, you need to go to the High Court for the reach. So, and it is not a reachable thing for the common people. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to do a very normal, consolidated and uniform green laws, so that a person, and in green laws, we are trying to involve specific sections, specific chapter, just stressing the right and the responsibility, right of the women as a victim, and responsibility of the state. When their rights will be violated, then women definitely can ask for the state that why you are violating this, why you are not taking, and they can be aggrieved, and they also can go to the court, and they will get the support from the government, like legal aid service. So we are trying in Bangladesh, we are trying, and let's see, inshallah we'll do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Fatima. Does anyone else want to add anything? Nastinka?
Yeah, I can give related to the question about sea level rise and what we are doing. I just wanted to mention that, for example, here PICS at the moment is working on a research related to sea level rise and looking at how to integrate community values and indigenous knowledge and perspectives in the coastal flood risk assessment that we are doing, also working to support the development of multi-level governance arrangement for regional coastal flood adaptation. So as you know, the coastal flooding spans geographic and jurisdictional boundaries. So we are working on that, and as I mentioned, the researchers are working with the different municipalities that are in that area that are gonna be potentially impacted due to sea level rise, and also with indigenous communities that are the right owners of the land here in BC. So we are working to look for the best solutions and what are the best tools in the multi-level governance arrangement needs to make sure that proper adaptation is managed and it takes place here in the coastal areas of BC. So I am happy to share. I can share the link of the project there, and right now this is year one, but for sure we're gonna be having some tools and frameworks that you might find it useful once the research is ready. And if some of you are really keen and interested in learning more, I am happy to connect you with the research in residence from PICS.
Thank you, Nastinka. I was going to say, Tamsin, I think we've had one other person join, and I wondered whether maybe just before they come in, maybe just to see if Blake had anything he wanted to respond to everyone. But maybe we should just say, shall I just say, Tamsin, to Kadio? Kadio, can you hear us?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, Kadio, if you can hear us, in a moment, we're just going to go to somebody else, and then we're going to come to you and just ask if you could give a brief introduction to yourself and the work that you're doing. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay, so we'll be with you in 1 minute. Gives you a moment to prepare slightly. Blake, yeah, was there anything you wanted to say in response to what everyone said there?
No, I think I'm encouraged by the kind of community and occasionally federal, national level leadership that's being displayed. But I think my concern remains that it's not a whole of government approach, and that for the kind of changes that the working group is talking about in the next 10 years to avoid tipping points that we have, that they will be insufficient, unfortunately. And having a kind of dedicated group of researchers and planners and government officials feels necessary in order to mitigate these upcoming impacts. So that's all.
Yeah, thank you, Blake. Before I move to Kadio, just maybe a very brief point to say on all of this is that some very wise people that I've met over the years, some of whom are not around anymore, but spent decades thinking about this situation and seeing what was coming ahead. One of the key focuses is, yes, we need the right structures and governance, and we really need to start building community capacity in all its forms, because ultimately, if that governance is not fit for purpose, it's going to be community structures or community governance, but also you don't get good community governance unless you have good community cohesion, and and I think COVID's done a lot to help this, but I think we shouldn't be underestimating the significance of taking down some of the barriers that our current system has built up that disconnected communities from each other and from the nature they rely on. So but thank you for those thoughts. So yeah, Tamsin, I think we probably just got time now to hear from Kadio, is that right?
Yeah, we'll hear from Kadio and then we can wrap things up. Are you there? Kadio?
Yeah, I'm here.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay, I'm Kadio Valère Rodolphe Angama. I'm a PhD student at Wascal, UCAD. UCAD, it is a University Cheikh Anta Diop of Dakar, Senegal. I'm working on land degradation, the drivers for land degradation in three ecosystems in Côte d'Ivoire. But my English is not very good. My English is not very good because I'm from Côte d'Ivoire. Côte d'Ivoire his native language is French. My English is not very good. That is the reason.
No worries.
Guys, okay?
Nice to meet you. I've put the link for your presentation in the chat so that everyone can read your proposal and see your presentation there.
And you've got a vote up for your English from Blake saying it sounds great, and it sounds great from us as well. I'm sure, being someone who only speaks very, very, very bad French, yeah, I think it's.
No worry, no worry. I will try to speak English. It is a good opportunity for me to improve my English.
He says in perfect English, yeah.
Yeah. We do have another last-minute person who's come in here. It's Jabik. We're just introducing ourselves here and having a little bit of a conversation about the conference. Are you there and able to just introduce yourself and your work? Maybe, Jabik? Maybe we don't have.
Hello.
Oh, are you there?
Yes, please. Sorry for you.
No, it's okay. I don't know if you wanted to just introduce yourself to the group.
Okay. My name is Benjamin Jabik from Ghana with Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. I'm the head of monitoring and evaluation unit of the center.
Fantastic. And what I've done is I have looked up your proposal there. I can see that you've got your everything you need. So if anyone's interested in your work, they can go ahead and follow that link that I've put in the chat there. You've come in at a little bit of the last moment here. We've been going for nearly an hour now. And so what I'm going to recommend to you, Jabik, is that you watch the video when we upload this later on today. And if there's anything that you want to add to the conversation, you can do that in the discussion board there. We'll make it.
Sorry, Tamsin. I was just going to say, and absolutely, because your topic is very much in the sphere of governance. I was explaining earlier that everyone connects with governance in some way or another, but obviously your topic is very focused. So you might find the discussion we had earlier useful. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. I will have a look at it and then see what it is.
And then we've sort of done some of, so this is the online welcome think and drink think and drink. So we've done some of the thinking, but now what we need to do is find, I know some of you are in funny time zones. We have some water, we have some tea, some coffee. Maybe someone has a beer or a glass of wine. We won't judge. But if you want to grab your drink, we'll have a little cheers and say, welcome to the Climate Change Conference for this year. I'm looking forward to seeing you over the next few days. I will put my email address in the chat if anyone needs to contact me, if they're having any technical problems or anything like that. But I'm looking forward to engaging with the conference, looking forward to the ideas of the plenary speakers and also the parallel sessions and seeing those discussion boards develop over the next couple of days too. So cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you all. Have fun.
And if anyone has any sort of technical questions related to the event schedule or how to log in or anything like that, I'll stay around now just to make sure that everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing. But thank you and have a nice morning, evening,
night,
1 a.m. wherever you are.
Yeah,
I know that Tristan needs to go to bed. you do too, Fatima.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Kadia.
Okay, I wanted to know, because of the time I'm in Africa, and for the next conference for today, at what time you're supposed to take part at this conference?
So we have some sessions. That is a good opportunity for me to tell you. So we have some sessions. We're done with the sessions for today. We have 2 plenary sessions tomorrow morning. They are at 9 a.m., which is Thomas Clark, which is Chicago Central Standard Time. I'll put the link in the chat here. And the reason I'm putting the link in the chat is because in that chat is a link to a time zone converter. So you can just simply put in the time zone that you're in and the time zone of Chicago, and you can see what the time difference is there because it's going to be different for all of us. So if you click on that link, you can see the time zone difference there. So I'm guessing whatever time it is there now, it's about 4 hours before it is the time that we need to see you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Mariana, you've just come in, but we've just finished, we've just wrapped up. I don't know if you can hear me. I don't know if you wanted to unmute. We were just about to say goodbye, but I don't know if you wanted to quickly introduce yourself and say hello.
Okay, thank you.
And what I'm going to tell you is that we've recorded this session. We had a bit of a discussion about the special focus and what everyone's presenting on. So we'll get that session up online in the next hour or so, and then you'll be able to watch that at your leisure. And then if you have any questions, you can ask them in the discussion board.
Okay, thank you.
All right, everyone. Have a nice day. Speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.